2 million people in the street. We should avoid conveying the message that few trucks a day means the siege is lifted for humanitarian aid. This is not true.
Gaza's health ministry has published the names of more than 6,700 Palestinians killed since Israel launched its assault on the Gaza Strip 3 weeks ago. The 200-plus page report lists the name, age, gender, and ID number of each victim of the bombardment. The toll does not include the names of 281 people whose bodies could not be identified, bringing the toll to more than 7,000. Nor does it include more than 1,500 Palestinians missing and believed to be trapped under the rubble. 2,665 children are listed among the dead. The ministry made the names public after President Biden Wednesday cast doubt on Gaza's official death toll.
I have no notion that Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging a war.
Omar Shaker of Human Rights Watch said his organization has always found data from the Gaza Ministry of Health reliable. He said that until quite recently, even the U.S. State Department cited the ministry's data without caveat.
I think it's worth noting that this creates a fog of war, a fog of misinformation, which can provide political cover for more large-scale atrocities to take place. The conversation should focus on how world leaders can stop further mass atrocities and not nitpicking whether a number that's generally proven to be accurate may be a little bit off.
Al Jazeera's Gaza bureau chief, Wael al-Dahdouh, returned to the airwaves on Thursday, a day after an Israeli airstrike killed 12 members of his family. Dahdouh resumed broadcasting from a Gaza rooftop hours after he led prayers at a funeral for his wife, son, daughter, grandson, and other relatives.
I saw it as my duty to get back to work as quickly as possible, despite everything, because as you can see, the bombardment is still ongoing. There are airstrikes and artillery shelling, and things continue to develop.
The Committee to Protect Journalists reports at least 27 journalists have been killed since October 7th, 4 Israelis, 1 Lebanese, and 22 Palestinians. European Union leaders called Thursday for a humanitarian pause in Israel's bombardment of Gaza, but stopped short of calling for a ceasefire. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reaffirmed EU support for Israel, saying it had the right to self-defense in line with international law. She also blamed Hamas for provoking the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Her remarks came after Human Rights Watch Director Tarana Hassan condemned both Hamas and Israel for targeting innocent civilians. Hassan testified on Wednesday to the European Parliament Subcommittee on Human Rights.
You cannot wipe out entire families, let a health system be destroyed, raze entire districts to the ground, refer to people as animals. You can't punish an entire population by preventing desperately needed aid from reaching them. International humanitarian law is clear. Atrocities from one side do not justify atrocities from the other side.
At an emergency session of the UN General Assembly in New York, the Palestinian envoy to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, pleaded with representatives to vote in favor of a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the increased delivery of humanitarian aid.
Vote to stop the killing. Vote for humanitarian aid to reach those whose very survival depends on it. Vote to stop this madness.
The UN General Assembly's 193 member states are voting on the non-binding resolution today after the U.S. repeatedly vetoed Security Council resolutions calling for a ceasefire. The Pentagon says U.S. forces attacked 2 facilities in Syria linked to Iranian armed groups in response to earlier attacks on U.S. military personnel in Iraq and Syria. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the U.S. strikes were not connected to the conflict in Israel and Palestine. 900 U.S. troops are also headed to the Middle East. This is Pentagon Press Secretary Patrick Ryder.
While I won't talk specific deployment locations for these forces, I can confirm that they are not going to Israel, and that again, they are intended to support regional deterrence efforts and further bolster U.S. force protection capabilities.
Florida's state university system, in collaboration with Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, has issued a memo ordering college campuses to shut down a Palestinian Solidarity student organization. Florida officials accuse Students for Justice in Palestine of providing harmful support for terrorist groups.
That's a lie.
Palestine Legal, which defends the free speech of Palestinian rights activists, said in a statement the memo was, quote, filled with erroneous factual and legal claims that seek to distract from, distort, and silence the message of student activists across the United States.
That's true.
The same way Israeli propaganda has sought to distract public attention from ongoing Israeli war crimes,
That's
Palestine
true.
Legal wrote. Meanwhile, Governor DeSantis said Thursday he's made arrangements to send drones, weapons, and ammunition to Israel as it prepares for a ground invasion of Gaza. We'll speak with the head of Palestine Legal later in the broadcast.
Ron DeSantis is full of
In
shit.
Mexico, at least 27 people were killed and several others are missing in and around Acapulco after Hurricane Otis ripped through Mexico's Pacific coast, knocking out all communications and leaving behind a trail of destruction. The Category 5 storm was the strongest East Pacific hurricane on record to make landfall with 165-mile-per-hour winds. A local camera person who filmed the devastating aftermath in Acapulco recounted living through the hurricane.
Pues hubo un momento que el edificio se movía de lado a lado.
There was a moment when the building was moving from side to side.